everyone, and welcome to another episode of StorrsNation. I'm your host, Hezekiah Johnson. How have you been? I know it's been a while since you've seen me. I'm joined with a familiar face and returning analyst, Danny Barletta, and the new analyst, Josh Schlactus. How are you guys doing?
Doing really well.
Yeah, good. Good to be back.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be back, and I know these guys are too. So let's get this show started. Money, 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 money. Manny Machado just scored the biggest free agent contract in American sports history. He recently just signed a $300 million contract with the San Diego Padres. Now, this is a 10-year contract, which he gets to opt out after his 5th season. Danny, do you feel like this contract can hurt him in the end?
I don't think it's going to hurt him, but I don't think that was the best place for him to sign. The Padres are a long way from competing. They still don't have any pitching, and he's going to need to be patient for their prospects to come up and prosper. But if he has the right attitude, which we all know he's known for having a little bit of an attitude, it could affect his relationship with the team, with his teammates and his production, because he just doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that's going to be perfectly fine with stinking for like 3 years. So, I don't know. It's not going to hurt him, but I think I could have seen him going to a contender, like more likely than him going to somewhere like the Padres. It's still a few years away from being relevant.
Now, at the end of this contract, Machado will be 36 years old. Josh, do you think locking Machado up for 10 years could hurt the Padres in the long run?
Now, this is a really interesting case because in most cases you hear the words 10 years and you get a little bit scared, right? It's like, oh my God, so much money to a one player for 10 years. But in this case, I think it's different just because of his age. He's 26 years old, right? And you look at all the players who you get scared off by the 10-year contracts, Alex Rodriguez, Albert Pujols, right? These guys have bad contracts, but in their age 35 and 36 season, they're still all-stars. A-Rod was an all-star at 35. Albert Pujols hit 40 home runs at 35, hit 31 at 36, right? So when Machado's contract's over, as seen by history, these players are still good players. And I think the Padres really needed to make a splash. They didn't really have a team identity. I think, in contrary to what you said, I really do think they have a really bright future with the fact that they have so many good, strong prospects like Tatis and Urias and, of course, Mackenzie Gore coming up. I think in a couple of years this could be a contending team, and I think he'll be really good for that.
No, yeah, they definitely got closer to contending because they have Hosmer, and now they got their corner infield locked up.
And with Hosmer also, I think Hosmer, obviously he struggled last year, but with Hosmer having kind of the weight lifted off his shoulders, with Machado, Myers, eventually Tatis, like you have all those guys there, I think he'll improve because of it. Look back like his royal self.
My one thing is this 10 years, you never know what the injury could.
The injury could take him out a couple years,
and like who knows? He could be one of those guys. Injuries in his early 30s. He's not good. He's not an all-star at 35. I mean, I do think that the Padres had to take that risk to sign him.
I think when you're the Padres, that's been an irrelevant team for so long, and you finally have the chance to get a star player, you take the opportunity.
Definitely. Yep.
Now, with Machado securing the bag to start the 2019 MLB season, we now wait for home run derby champion Bryce Harper to declare where he is headed to start the season. Josh, where do you think Harper will end up?
Bryce Harper, it's just so sad because I wish he stayed on the Nationals. I really did. I thought he was a great fit there. I thought, the city loved him. Everyone loved him. He grew up there. But I think that we see it's, more obviously not going to be there. I'd like to see what he does on the Phillies. I know a division rival, but they got Herrera in the outfield. They got Rhys Hoskins. They got a bunch of guys in their infield. They have Aaron Nola, who's an ace, JT Realmuto. They got a really good young group of star players. And I think if you put Bryce Harper out in right field where they have a very obvious hole, I think it fills a need for the Phillies. I think the Phillies, obviously they came into this offseason saying we're going to spend a lot of money. And if they don't get either Machado or Harper after saying that, I feel like it's a failure for them. So they're going to go hard at him, and I think that's where he's going to end up.
I agree.
Yeah,
definitely.
Now, $300 million is a ton of money. Danny, with whatever team Harper decides to go to, do you think he will secure that type of bag?
I think he's going to get more. I really do.
Really?
Because now that Machado laid the groundwork. Now he signed for 10 years, $300 million. Now Harper and his agent have all the power now. They're like, all right, he got this much. What are you going to pay me?
Give me more.
Hey, give me a little bit more. Like my personal, I agree with the Phillies. My final thing, I think he gets 10 years, $320 million.
I think when it comes to Bryce Harper, I think he's going to get more, and I think that it's a mistake.
Me too.
Right? I don't think he deserves more. I think, look, he was an MVP player but we saw what he's done the past couple of seasons. His average has been down. He's still a superstar. He's still the guy, a top 10, top 5 guy in the league at times. And, maybe 320 will be worth it, but it's taking a little bit of risk if you're pushing it past the Machado limit.
I don't think he's a better player than Machado, and I don't think he deserves more money, but I think just the fact that he held out longer will probably will get the bigger bag.
Scott Boras does a good job.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We're going to cut to a quick commercial break, but when we get back, the guys will be discussing just how far our UConn women basketball team will make it in the tournament. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Danny is now joined by another new analyst in Teddy Criscuolo. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here, Hez.
Let's talk about us and our wonderful women. They are 25-2 on the year. Yes, 2 losses. They lost to Baylor, broke a 126 consecutive regular season win over the last 4+ years. Even with the huge loss to Louisville later on in the year, the Huskies sit at 3rd in the nation, but it brings up some doubt. Danny, our Huskies have the talent, but do they have that experience to push them forward in March?
To be honest, I don't think experience is much of an issue because let's look at the last 2 seasons. Had unbelievably talented teams and unbelievably experienced teams, and they lost in the Final Four. This year, we have the talent, not much experience, and I think that's perfectly fine. I think it's going to come down to who, how good they play, not so much the experience. If they play their top basketball, there's not a team that can beat them. When they're getting turnovers, just running the floor, getting 8 to 10 to 12 point runs, then they're not going to lose. But when they play those little lackadaisical periods, we've seen them do that a couple of times this season, that's when they get in trouble. So ultimately, it's not going to come down to the experience. It's going to come down to the quality of the play.
I agree. Kristen Williams was amazing in their ride of number 5, Notre Dame, scoring a career-high 28 points. Teddy, is she the X factor in order for the Huskies to win their 12th national championship?
I'll be honest, Hez. I don't know if Kristen is quite yet the X factor.
Ooh.
That's not to say she isn't important, though. I think we've seen throughout the year that when Kristen balls out, the UConn women beat very good teams. Notre Dame, game I covered against USC, we dominate good teams when Kristen plays well. But I think, and Gino once said this himself, if Nafisa Collier and Katie Lou Samuelson don't play well, the Huskies don't win.
They're not going to win.
Period.
They're not going to win.
So without that senior duo and the experience they have late in the season, I think that they have no shot of making a deep run in the playoffs. So I'm really looking to them to help lead this team.
I completely agree with that. When Nafisa and Katie Lou are both on, they put themselves in a very good situation to win. However, I think the alternate is Crystal Dangerfield. When she's the one that picks up the slack. If they don't, and she's always involved. But sometimes if Nafisa's not having the big scoring game, she'll be the one that takes the shots instead. And I think Crystal will be that alternate X factor as opposed to just the two-headed monster.
Definitely.
Let's transition to the opposite end of college basketball. Duke recently took a big loss against their rival, North Carolina. They had to do so without the efforts of future number 1 overall pick Zion Williamson, who literally blew through his shoe. He suffered what seems to be a minor knee injury, but it is uncertain how many days he will miss going forward. Teddy, if Zion has to sit out some games, what does Duke have to do in order to win?
No one wants to lose a player like Zion. That's obvious. He carries as much of a load on that team as that 290-pound monster of a body will hold. But if they want to win moving forward, I'm looking to the duo of Cam Reddish and RJ Barrett. We know how good they are. Coming out of high school, let's remember, Zion was ranked number 2. RJ Barrett was supposed to be the best player on that team. We see all the hype, all the dunks and the highlights we see from Zion, but RJ Barrett's a very, very good player. And I think with Zion kind of out of the picture, we can really see Cam Reddish, who's the 3rd best ranked player in the country, and RJ Barrett really come into their own. We've seen flashes of how special they are throughout the season, but I think with Zion out of the picture, they can really develop into the stars they meant to be. We've seen a little bit of inefficiency coming out of RJ Barrett throughout the year when he's chucking up some late game shots that might not be very good to take in those situations. But
Yeah.
I think that Coach K will be huge in this because with his experience and what he knows, he can help show them what they need to do. And if they can learn to win without Zion, they're going to be
That'd be
scary when he
huge.
comes back.
Definitely.
Danny, there's a lot of good teams in the NCAA right now. There's Gonzaga, Virginia, and even Houston in our conference. Without Zion in the lineup, a team can sneak up on Duke at any moment. What team do you see abusing this opportunity and pushing to the number 1 spot?
Well, Gonzaga dethroned Duke today in the polls, and I don't think they're going to relinquish that position because they're going to win out. They don't play really any opponents that are going to give them much of an issue. So I think they're going to win out. I think they'll keep it. However, I think Virginia at number 2 controls their own destiny. If they can win out, they will probably hop over to the number 1 spot because they play some more quality opponents. They play a couple of bubble tournament teams in Louisville and Syracuse. So if they those aren't going to be easy wins. So if they win both those games and win out, I think Virginia will be the number 1 team at the end of the day.
Now let's talk about Duke's game against Syracuse. How big was R.J. Barrett in that game?
Yeah, no, that was big. That was huge.
He took over. He scored like over 30 points.
Yeah.
Now we just need I'm not a Duke fan, but they just need Trey Jones to come together on the offensive end. He's an elite defender.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Duke still has a great shot at being the number 1 team because I say Virginia, I don't think they're going to win out. So I think if they don't win out and Duke finds a way to beat UNC, that UNC game at the end of the year is huge. If they win that, I think that might propel them to the number 1 spot.
For me, though, I don't know if Duke wants to be number 1. We've seen how much pressure that's been put on them throughout the entire year. If they can stay in that top 5 slot and still have that core of young players together, take some of the pressure off them, they can make a real deep run in the postseason.
Yeah, definitely. And
now, what if Zion doesn't come back?
That's tough because Zion. There's no replacement for Zion. Like you could get 3 R.J. Barretts, and they're not going to be 1 Zion Williamson, both in weight and in production.
Especially in weight. Yeah. That's all we have for this week, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to follow UCTV on Twitter and check out our YouTube at the UCTV channel 14. I'm your host, Hezekiah Johnson, signing off. $100 million contract with the San Diego Pirates. Whoa.
Locking.